Are you struggling to hire a closer who actually closes? Here's the reality. Most sharks are not going to be attracted to an unproven system. It isn't always the talent pool. Good reps price themselves off of a number, and before they ever take your call or apply to your role, they're actually checking whether the comp, the close rate, the system can actually produce it. Here's exactly what you have to prove before the killers start to show up on your sales team. All right, so I just had a conversation with a 7-figure founder, and I've had the same conversation with multiple 7 and 8-figure business owners. And I start to hear the same kind of 3 lines every time from someone who's starting to build a sales team or has already built a sales team and is struggling to scale it. And those things are, I need a dog, I'm looking for a shark, I'm looking for a killer, right? And so when you think about that, we're actually recruiting for a personality, not a proven seat. The other thing I hear is I'm getting some experience, but they're not killers. And so in this case, applications are showing up, but not the ones that we want. And then lastly, I hear the talent pool is too thin. And the reality is it isn't. This high ticket sales space is growing at an extremely rapid rate, and it's bigger than it has ever been. So there is a tremendous amount of talent out there. But the reality is the good ones passed on your offer, or they looked at it and passed. So let's break it down and try to understand exactly what's happening. I'm getting people with sales experience, but I'm not getting anyone I think this guy's a dog, he's gonna crush this. And this is what we want. So we need to ask ourselves, why is this not happening? Here's a diagnosis. Good sales reps know exactly what they're worth, right? And in sales, a closer's value is tied directly to a number. They can price themselves exactly down to the cent what they're worth, right? And so when their value is tied to revenue, cash collected on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, they know exactly what the market rate is. That's what commission is. It's a price on the value that this person can create inside of your company. And so when they look at job posting you're recruiting, they're qualifying you back the same exact way that you're qualifying them. So when they look at the offer that you're putting out into the job market, they're reading the offer before they read your pitch, before they understand your company. And if the numbers are not adding up, the sharks are walking away because they are already in good seats and they don't want to waste their time with something that could be risky or volatile. So if you're actively recruiting for sales roles and you're not seeing the sharks that you want in your application pool, the first place that you're going to want to look is you're going to want to check your compensation. So before you blame the talent pool, let's look at what we're actually offering. What is the OTE for the role? What are the on-target earnings? Is it attractive enough to pull the talent in? That's the first thing that you want to look at. The second thing that you want to understand is, can I prove that OTE? Have I validated that OTE? Is there somebody on my team? Oftentimes for founders that are just starting to build a sales team, it'll be themselves, right? But sales reps know that it's going to be hard for them to sell as good as the founder because they don't have all the credibility and the authority and the experience that the founder has, especially in the beginning, right? So can we prove with another sales rep on the team that the OTE is validated and it's possible, it's not just a promise? And lastly, if the first two are, if you have the OT and you can validate it and the compensation is right and they're still passing, this is a different problem. It's more of a system problem than it is a attraction problem. So here's a quick story that I myself have experienced multiple times. And the reality is most experienced veteran sales reps, they've been burned before. I myself have lived this where I came into an offer, and I had this happen multiple times where I come into an offer and they promised the world, and once I showed up and actually came into the company, it was an unfinished system. Marketing was broken. There was no lead gen, or the leads were coming in cold, unqualified, or even worse, not at all. And so they're just still trying to figure out marketing. The offer kept changing. Every week we were selling something new, something different to a different person. And so you start to combine 5, 6, 7 avatars with 5, 6, 7 offers. You have 25 different sales pitches. And the reality is it's hard enough to dial in and optimize one sales pitch, much less 25 of them, right? And so what this creates was volatility in my income. This was risky. And it wasn't just me. This happens to sales reps all the time. And so the veteran guys have already lived this, right? And most of the time, It's not the sales reps. There's external factors that are going on inside of the company that are affecting the performance of the sales rep. And so it's oftentimes out of their control, right? And so if you're still trying to figure something out, it's really hard to blame the sales rep or the sales system on something that was dependent on other departments of the business, such as marketing, such as product, right? And so every single good rep that has experience is carrying these scars with them into your interviews. And so this is something that as founders, we have to be aware of because it's going to affect us, right? So speaking of proven system, what is the math that we need to be able to show, that a shark needs to see in order for them to believe us, in order to believe that what we say is possible is possible? So the first thing is we want to have documented lead flow on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. We want to understand how many book calls, how many shows, how many calls taken, and the close rate on those calls, the average deal value, revenue, and then we want to see the commission. So that direct line is going to give us on-target earnings. And if you do not have a system and there's no math to prove and validate the system, then we're not going to be able to attract sharks because they've already been through this process. They've been burned before and they understand that any company worth their salt is going to have these numbers very clearly laid out and they can basically prove it to them. So here's the install that you can do inside of your sales teams. And initially, what most people think is like, we have to track the killers. I'm not tracking the killers, but the reality is you cannot skip this process. You can't just jump straight to the end. You have to start at the beginning. Let's build a system that can turn 50% reps into killers, right? And so initially we have to bite the bullet. We're going to hire who we can hire. We're going to hire the best that we can get out of the talent pool that we have. And it's easier to build a system that's going to take the 50% to the 80%, right? If we can take a mediocre sales rep, give them a really good tight system, it's much easier to push them to 80%. And then we validate the math, right? So once we have these guys producing at 80% or higher, now we have the math that validates the entire system. We have the OTE, and now we can then take that, we can go and attract the killers and repeat the recruiting process. The reality here is a validated close rate and a fully documented on-target earning is what's going to attract the killers, not a promise in our recruiting. All right, so let me land the plane here. All this to say that the most important thing in growing and scaling a sales team and removing the founder from the day-to-day is a sales team operating system. Not a course, not a playbook, infrastructure. The thing that makes a sales team scalable instead of personality dependent, where we're just constantly looking for the sharks. Let's create an environment where we can build the sharks, where we can take somebody and we can turn them into a shark. So everything has to be documented. All of your data, all of the pitch, the close, the conversation, the sales process, the sales system, the scripts, everything written down, documented, not in somebody's head and especially not in the founder's head, right? And then we start making decisions based off of data. If we have proper tracking, if we're tracking every single part of our process, every single one of our sales reps, we can start making decisions based off of data and we can validate to others that we have the data that shows that we can do what we say we can do. And lastly, a system that runs without you, right? That's the entire point as a founder, is that this is operating without you. And so if you can't clone this process over and over and have somebody to run and manage it for you, then one thing that you should start thinking about is, how can I build this operating system that I can give to somebody to manage for me so that this is a rinse and repeat process that doesn't involve me. Hey, by the way, my name is Chris Sanchez and I build predictable, elite, and fully systemized sales teams. I've helped clients generate over $54 million in revenue and ramped countless sales reps using the approach that I call the sales team operating system. What you just watched was a real sales team OS session that I pulled from a live client. If you want to see exactly how I run, manage, and scale elite 8-figure sales teams, don't click away just yet. In this next video right here, there's another sales team OS breakdown where I go deeper into the building, coaching, managing elite reps. Go ahead and click it and enjoy. Cheers.